did you guys know, in terms of the console wars, PS5 is beating Xbox? I don't actually care about all that stuff, but it is interesting to see the numbers. Maybe don't lie. I would also argue, so this says that PS5 has outsold Xbox Series X and S 3-1 in 2023, new data reveals. Little excerpt: PS5 sales grew about 65% to 22.5 million units this year, whereas Xbox sales fell about 15% to 7.6 million. So if we get into the nitty gritty, PS5 has outsold Xbox Series X and S 3-1. PlayStation 5 has now sold over 50 million units, is on track to outsell the record-breaking PlayStation 4. Reuters reports recorded its best ever November for PlayStation consoles with the PS5, which is now its 4th year of life. That's crazy. PS5s have been out for 4 years, and there's still people complaining about why a game is or isn't released on the PS4. Motherfuckers have had 4 years to save up $500. Because instead, that's the excuse, right? Like, first it was, oh, we can't get our hands on it. But then I started noticing they were always available digitally. Then they started being in store, so you could just go in and walk out with one. So that excuse couldn't fly. Now everybody's like, oh, I'm not trying to spend out of money. I don't have the money. You've had 4 years to save up if you really wanted a PS5. Like, stop complaining about games not coming out on PS4. Eventually, a time to upgrade has to come. It is what it is. I'm sorry to tell you that. I'm sorry. But some people need to hear it. So, excuse me. Some water. Sony has set an ambitious... Fuck you. Sony has set an ambitious target of selling 25 million PS5 consoles in the current financial year, ending in March 31st, 2024. If it manages, it'll be the most consoles they've ever shifted in a single financial year. Latest news is that they called their 25 million target high and not within easy reach. But speaking today at the Financial Press, Senior Vice President for Global Marketing, Eric Limpel, Sales and Business Operations at Sony Interactive, expressed confidence in the PS5. Given the momentum we had in November, what we're seeing in December in general, we're feeling very good about the sales. Still pushing really hard, blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, I love how this hasn't gotten to the point. That's another thing about these mergers, people losing jobs. Boulder, you like really behind on the stream? I've been off of that for like a minute. PS5 is on track to outsell the PS4, which has sold 117 million units since going on sale in 2013. Demand for the PS5 going into this year was huge. Momentum is strong, continuing. They hit 50 million on December 9th, 161 weeks after it launched in November 2020. They're just explaining everything again. Okay, so they sold 50 million 1 week shy of what the PS4 did. That's interesting to think about, that the PS4 actually sold faster, sure only by a week, but faster than the PS5. But you do have to take into consideration there was a time people couldn't get their hands on a PS5 at all. While the PS5 appears to be doing the business for Sony, console rivals having a tougher time. Xbox sales have collapsed in Europe. Microsoft has announced Xbox Series S and X sales in the years. Oh, they haven't announced them in years. Wow. Execs have insisted that console sales don't paint an accurate picture of their health. That was kind of the point that I was going to get into, is like, sure, Xbox PS5 has outsold them 3-1, but also my argument for that is the thing that helps drive PlayStation sales is the exclusives, which, as things are becoming less and less exclusive, we're seeing more PC ports, and we're seeing more people willing to just wait a year to get a PC port. I would argue that, like, it's not as prevalent for people to be incentivized to buy a PlayStation And I'm saying that as a PlayStation owner. Like, I legitimately got a PlayStation 4 for Marvel Spider-Man. And then of course, once I was in the ecosystem, I was able to check out like The Last of Us, Uncharted, God of War. I was able to check out those staples, but to be perfectly honest, the thing that drives them is that like they have like their flagship exclusive for that year, and then that drives people to buy the PlayStation. Whereas Xbox really went away from the concept of Xbox exclusive, and they really started pushing Game Pass. And because Game Pass spans across Xbox and PC, like a lot of Xbox's gamer base is PC gamers. Bold, you say that, but like the thing is that like PlayStation's actually struggling way more than Microsoft these days, simply because like they believed in the long-term vision of Game Pass and being able to put like day one AAA titles on Game Pass. So it's one of those things where PlayStation, I mean, think about it. The only thing they got to ride off, and let me see, PS5 exclusives in 2023. So, this is old, but Forspoken, that didn't really do that well. I don't know about VR. I can't speak to that. Stellar Blade did not come out this year, so that's inaccurate. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth did not come out this year. The really thing that they rolled off of was Marvel Spider-Man and then like Final Fantasy. So like, but the thing is like once the person buys a console, then all they're buying is your games. Whereas like Xbox does have people on long-term subscription even without having their console. And it's one of those things that helps and hurts Xbox. Like I feel like at some point they are gonna have to acknowledge, like, I guess they can say that they still make consoles to reach their very base level average consumer, because with a console it's still easier access to gaming than building a PC. But it's getting to the point, these consoles, you could get a budget PC and it lasts you longer, so who knows. But I wouldn't argue that Xbox needs to get it together at all. They're not hurting for cash. They've not been concerned with selling consoles for a long time, if I'm being honest. Financial Times quotes analysis from Ampere. Yeah, this is what I already read. That means that they outsold Xbox 3-1. The near 7-year-old Switch, meanwhile, saw sales. They really had to throw Switch in here. Just to be rude. Saw sales fall 18% to 16.4 million in 2023. Who's still, I mean, I guess if you're buying the OLED, but it does say the 7-year-old Switch, so I'm assuming that means who's buying the original Switch? Nintendo is expecting to release its next-gen console next year. I probably won't buy it. I barely play my Switch now. Microsoft bolstered its gaming fortunes this year after it bought Activision Blizzard for nearly 69 billion. That means like Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, and Candy Crush will now fall within the Xbox brand. See, that's what I'm saying is like, first of all, the fact that like Candy Crush Saga, like nobody talks about it anymore, but it's actually still relatively popular. Like a lot of fucking people play Candy Crush. But yeah, like they have long saying things like this. Now, anytime these things have sales or spikes, like Xbox is making money. Like, so I wouldn't say Xbox needs to get it together. That's just me. Microsoft is expected to begin launching Activision Blizzard games in the Game Pass 2024. That will be fire. If I don't have to pay for another Call of Duty, I don't have to own it. Should need Game Pass subscription. Call of Duty games were released in the subscription service day one. Microsoft is plotting its own app store in a bid to take on Apple and Google. Sony, meanwhile, still enjoys big sales of its single player exclusives, which it launches on PC after console. Yeah, so like Sony's kind of working in the market to double dip in that way. Sony plans on a mobile push of its own. They should have made a new handheld. I'm not gonna lie. Should have made a new handheld. Instead of the PlayStation Portal. This week, hackers really, they didn't really need to add that little tidbit in there. But yeah, if you've been living under a rock, if you didn't know, hackers did end up releasing that data from Insomniac. They asked for $2 million. Obviously, Sony and Insomniac didn't pay. And so that information has been leaked. A lot of assets, future game slate. Sony has not commented yet. I mean, what can you do other than just keep it pushing, you know?